we're here with my friend Sarah Foley. She is incredible. I saw her for the first time when she was on stage, actually, and she captivated me like she did everyone else in the audience. And she's done this on a number of different occasions. In fact, I've been to your Instagram page and watched you be on stage several times, and you can just tell people are so fascinated by you. And I'll say my reason why. I mean, you probably have your own opinions on everything you've been through and why people are so interested in hearing from you, but for me, the reason why is you are so energetic and positive. And you've been through some very difficult things that a lot of people would end up feeling sorry for themselves for. But you have chosen to be this light instead. And for those who can't see, because we have her wheelchair to the side, she is now in a wheelchair permanently, right? Is this?
Well, I'm not permanently in the wheelchair, but I can
Yeah.
yes, but permanently paralyzed, I guess you could say, yes.
But her attitude and what you've chosen to do with this situation is so impressive and so awesome to me that I just wanted you to come here and share this with my audience too.
I'm so
thanks
honored
for being
to be here. Thank you so
for being
much.
here. Do you mind walking us through initially what happened? And she did just tell me this story, but I want everyone else to know this too, like, because you weren't born this way.
Correct. Yes.
Do you mind walking us through kind of what happened?
Yeah. And I do want to touch on something before I get in that, because you said she's chosen to live positively. And I loved that you nailed it from the get-go, because I think it's a choice. Actually, I know it's a choice. And it comes down to our intention behind everything. And that's what we see as our reality. So thank you for starting us.
How empowering too. I love that you said that.
Yeah.
It's so empowering to know that this is a choice. Literally just about everything is. I mean, maybe our circumstances are not, but how we choose to react to it. And I love that you've chosen to just be such a light.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Thank you. No, you're so
I can sing your praises all day.
I love you. So yeah, it'll be 12 years this September. In 2012, I was out on a four-wheeler. Me, my boyfriend Sean, and another couple. We were all down in Bryan Head, just literally seeing the leaves change. Like everything was just really easy peasy ride, no crazy tricks. It was just easy. And I had never really been on these kind of machines. And Sean just kept saying, look, I've got you on the most safe one. I've got your helmet on you. I'm going to keep you safe. Like, I got you today. And at one point, this trail kind of went up and around a bend of the mountain, and we couldn't quite see what was on the other side. Did we need to turn around? So the guys went on up ahead, and we see the other guy waving me up from on top of the hill. And so I start going up, the other girl's behind me, and what we don't know is that Sean is coming down the mountain to tell me it's safe. So as we come around the bend, we're going at each other full speed, and I panic. I jerk my handlebars to the right, and I'll never forget, though, I remember looking back to my left and seeing that he had gotten himself so far out of the way, I just had to go straight. Like, he really did everything he could to keep me safe that day. And as fate would have it, my front wheels hit a ditch. I started flipping. I remember everything. I can still taste the dirt. Like, I remember it clear as day. I remember hearing the bones crunch and the metal and everything. And it flipped so quickly that there wasn't a single scratch on me, like not even a carpet burn. And it flipped me a few times and threw me kind of against this fallen tree branch. And I was so coherent. And I just remember I was like,
it didn't knock you out or anything?
Not at all. And I went into like action, and I saw Sean running towards me, and he was just like dripping in panic, just the sound that was coming out of his mouth of just like terror. And he comes up to me, and I said, don't move me, call Lifeline. How's my face? And he's like, honey, your face is okay, but I don't know about the rest of your body. Actually, I remember he came right down to me. He said, your face is beautiful, but I don't know about this rest of your body. And took Lifeline about an hour and a half to get there.
No.
And so my clavicle had snapped. And so that was the thing. I was really diligent about not moving. I just didn't want to be moved. I'd heard horror stories of moving wrong after an injury, and that causes more. And so, but my clavicle was just like ready to pierce. I was kind of holding myself up, not realizing that I couldn't feel below my waist. And so it was instant paralysis. They were squeezing my toes and just nothing. Oh my gosh. So Lifeline got there. They got me into the helicopter. Sean had to go back to the cabin, get our 4 dogs, like drive. He had to make all the phone calls. And a couple interesting things happen. Actually, three very big things happened in the hospital. One was as I was going into surgery. So Sean had called my mom. They got me to the hospital. She immediately went from Salt Lake to Vegas, was the closer hospital. So it was further away from home, but she touched down and I was calling her at that point. And I was super doped up. I don't even remember this part, but she just said, "You sound like a scared little girl." And you just said, "Mom, the doctors think if they can relieve the pressure that I'll be able to walk again." And I didn't even know about that story until about 5, 6 years after I was injured. She told me about that. And I realize now in life, it's this process of relieving pressures, right? Getting ourselves into alignment of the life we want. And now I'm truly walking the path that's meant for me. It's just been life-changing. And then another one is I came out of surgery, and now at this point, the entire waiting room was full. I mean, everyone just flew in. Grandparents, my dad, my brother, my aunts, my cousins, the entire room was full. And my aunt came in. She came in for a hug, and I just whispered in her ear, "Why? Like, why?" And she like pushed away from me, and her voice got so deep in her belly. I'll never forget it. Clear as day. And she just said, "Don't you ever ask why. Searching for that answer is going to eat you alive, and it's only going to come when it's meant to." Like, profound, right? And everyone in the room's like, "Be nice. Like, tell her something nice." Yeah. But it changed every direction. And then the third one, which I don't remember, my friend still loves to tell this story, but she flew in from LA, and she was my first friend that arrived on the scene to the hospital. And she said, "I came into your room. You are like totally out of it and singing Kelly Clarkson, like, 'What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.'"
Oh my
And
gosh.
I don't remember that. But like, I just think about this girl, this version of me just laying in the hospital with like knowing she's going to be relieving pressure, not to ask why, and knowing that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I feel like my direction changed from the get-go. Now, I will say, after you come home from the hospital, after you go from being everyone's everything while you're in the hospital, I mean, visitors and gifts and all the things you can imagine, then you go home and everyone's gone back to their real life but you. And that's when things got really, really hard, right? Just denial sets in, and anger and suicidal thoughts were on repeat there for a while. It was just like, how on earth am I supposed to live like this? And at that point, going home from the hospital, you're still I didn't drive. I was very dependent. My body was still getting acclimated. And so, everything below your rib cage is paralyzed. And so your bladder's still figuring things out, and your bowels, and you're just like constantly cleaning up and falling out of wheelchairs. And you're just like, there's no way that this is my life. This is ridiculous. But yeah, so about 4 years post, I was still very much working against my disability. I was very much against
For 4
this
years.
life for about 4 years.
Wow.
And still putting on a very happy face for everybody. But behind closed doors, it was a really different conversation. And just angry and confused and trying not to ask why, but then kind of bitter about not asking why, all the things. And life ended up leading us to Maui. Long story short, I should say, Sean and I got married. We ended up having a little boy. We got married on the anniversary date of the accident.
Oh my gosh. Was that planned?
Yes, because we wanted to make it a good day, not a bad day. And now it's just confusing and it's just emotional. But so at that point, we were married. We had this little 1-year-old, and his job got an opportunity to go to Maui. So we went to Maui, and I thought, this is my clean slate. This is it. I am choosing. So I love that you said that word. I'm choosing to heal. And I opened my whole self, my mind, body, heart, spirit, everything. I just opened it up to healers. I just said, give me healers. I'm ready. I'm ready to heal. I'm ready to be done with this feeling. I don't know how yet, but I got introduced to an artist who painted me walking on the beach. Stunning. And that process of taking the photos with her was this reclamation of my body in that relationship. I got introduced to what I called my medicine woman, which was she was my therapist. I did support groups. I went to dance classes. I just I came alive. And I think that that's the biggest thing I want people to hear from my entire story is that it was always a choice.
Wow. Okay, I have a question really quick.
Okay.
This is such a side note, but what is it like being pregnant while in a wheelchair? Because being
It's
pregnant
so
is so
easy.
hard. What?
Oh my gosh, that part was the easiest part of being paralyzed. Well, I will say the last couple months I was getting a little hard to move around, but um, what I loved about it was that feeling my baby inside of me, and like the the paralysis only went so far, and so I was able to still be in touch with him. I don't know, it was just really beautiful for my body. But he was a very easy baby. He was a very easy pregnancy. And I found a really great doctor, and he was very equipped to help people with paralysis.
Wow.
And the great thing was that I literally did not feel labor. I woke up in the middle of the night.
They didn't have to do an epidural or anything.
Nope. Natural
Oh my
epidural.
gosh.
So I literally woke up. It was 3:07. I was like, my body feels kind of tight. Like something's off. And Sean turned on the light. My water had already broken. Rushed to the hospital. I literally pushed twice and it was just done.
Oh my gosh.
It was so easy.
Holy cow.
And then Charlie is my little boy. He's 9 now.
So cute.
He's easy. He's just this very flow kid. He
But what
grew up
about
in
as a
Maui.
toddler? Like, how do you chase around a toddler? Like,
Well, we're training our kids, right? So
Yeah.
I think that was always just really I don't know, Charlie just always knew. He knew that he couldn't push mom's boundaries. He could push dad's, but he didn't push mine. And I learned how to like flip him up onto my lap like as a toddler. So he rode around on my lap till he was like 4. I mean,
you are so
like
amazing.
he would just always be on my lap. It was just like I didn't need a stroller. I'm the stroller.
You make it sound so easy, but like even me as a first time mom, when I had one, I'm like, how
Well,
does
I don't
anyone
know how you do
this?
6. I can only do
Well,
one. Like,
But even when I had one though, I was like, this is so hard. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so amazing, but I'm like, this is so hard. And you had the added challenge
Yeah.
of being in a wheelchair, but your attitude is so positive. This is what I'm talking about. Like, it's so
well,
amazing.
I think that the disability actually prepped me for motherhood because I had to adapt everything in my life. I had to relearn how to drive with my hands. I had to learn how to get dressed without, standing up to pull my pants on. Like,
Yeah.
I had to relearn everything. And so I got really great at just adapting life
Yeah.
and just making it work. And I think that by the time Charlie came, it was old hat. I'm like, I know how to make anything work. So we would just get creative.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm just so impressed.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed. So then, but you did say you went through a period of feeling kind of that dark, like, would you call it depression? Like,
Oh yeah, I'd call it all the things. It was just heavy,
yeah.
and I think the heaviest part was that no one around me understood, but I refused to be part of that world.
Yeah.
Like disability. I don't wanted nothing to do with
yeah.
it. So I didn't want to make friends in it. I'm not going to be part of this community forever. I'm going to walk again, just like kind of these like, I'm not even going to be part of it. But then the downfall is no one in my life understands what I'm going through. I can't talk to them. I already feel like a burden on time, energy. They're remodeling houses and putting in elevators and all these things for me. And I'm feeling so guilty that I can't burden them even more by being sad.
Wow.
So I was carrying the weight of that and saying, I'm good. Everything's great. I'm such an inspiration. It happens for a reason. Like saying all the things. But I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
When someone talks and you're like, your voice is like stuck in your throat. Your body doesn't even believe what you're saying, right? And that was me for so long.
How does someone, well, I guess, speak for yourself, I guess. How did you go from that to truly believing that, to truly being like, you know what, I'm here for a reason. Let's do this.
It was a process. I mean, it was a long process. And I think that it's very important to remind people, because people see me here now and they can't almost visualize it.
Yeah.
Right. And I kind of think of that healing time as almost like down in the basement. Like it felt dirty and grimy and like literally feeling everything that came through and understanding that I wasn't wrong for any of those feelings, but I was also in control of my life. And I didn't have to always feel those feelings.
Do you recommend someone go through that period?
100%. I recommend everybody goes through that period. I think that it's vital for us to, because it was a catalyst. It was this cracking open. I started going to therapy for that, but then I got to talk to therapy about everything in my life and realizing this was just only a piece of it, and understanding how I react to life is the same way no matter what challenge. So it put it all back on me. I took a lot more ownership, and I loved my therapist. Every single session started the same. I would sit down, she'd close the doors, I'd close my eyes, and she would just say the same question every time: what part needs you right now?
What does that mean?
So she does a kind of therapy called parts work, IFS, internal family system. So parts work is kind of the layman's term of it. And it's basically the parts within us. So we've got like our core self, but we also have these parts within us, like our manager part, our sad little girl part. We've got our angry part. We've got our sad and guilty part. Like we've got all these parts of us. And if you think about it, they're all trying to do the same thing. Yeah. They all have your best interest at mind, but they're going to go about it very differently. And so what you do is you start to separate yourself from these parts. I am not my part. I am my core self. I am me. And so you're getting in touch with that more and more and more. But by framing it in what part needs you right now, I become my own healer.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Yes. This is one thing I love about you is before cameras are rolling, because you're the same cameras on, cameras off. And like before cameras are rolling or anything, we were talking about my problems and how you've learned to forgive, because there was a period where you felt like you blamed a little bit for.
Oh, yeah. No, a lot.
Or a lot.
Let's be honest. Yeah, there was a lot of blame.
I mean, I feel like I should know this. Like, I've served a mission. I teach people how to forgive, that sort of thing. But when it actually comes down to it, and there's something really life-changing and difficult where you feel wronged and you felt that way, how were you able to fully forgive? And tell me a little bit, because you told me a little bit about that, and I liked what you said.
Yeah, and thank you for saying same cameras on, off. Like, that is literally my favorite compliment in the world. I love that. And so as I went through this, even through like the healing, and I think it's human nature to need someone or something to blame. Yeah. It takes it off us. It makes things a little bit more bearable. And for me, I just wanted someone to blame, and it was Sean. And unfortunately, he blamed himself. My family blamed him. No one wanted to say it, but everyone blamed. And I can't even imagine the heaviness of that with him. And even though I never said it to him, I acted very different. Like if my bladder would have a bad day, if I'd fall out of my chair, like it was always like, he put me in this stupid chair. Like always. And just that bitterness. And so in Hawaii, they have so many beautiful practices and traditions and words. And I just love the Hawaiian culture so much.
I do too. I love Polynesian culture.
It's so beautiful. But they've got this practice called Ho'oponopono. It's Ho'oponopono.
Lots of O's.
Yep, lots of O's. And it basically means to make right. And it is a very simple yet very profound process where within meditation, prayer, wherever, you literally say the same phrases over and over. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you.
Even if it's to someone who has hurt you.
Now let me explain why.
And even if they're the ones wrong.
And it's still their fault.
This was my actual response around that.
I love this. It's everyone's response, right? So yes, because what we're doing is we are taking full ownership for what we have ownership of, which is our reactions, our thoughts, everything. So the story kind of goes that there was this Hawaiian psychiatrist that came into like this massive mental hospital. It was like the rapists and the murderers and like the bad of the bad. And he came in and he would do this practice over them because at the core of everyone, there's goodness. Yeah. The core self is good. Yeah. The core self is pure. There's parts that act differently. And so what you're doing is you're basically separating, and you are loving them for who they are. And then you're taking ownership for how you respond. So if you think about it this way, I love you. I love you for you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for how I've responded because of how I've seen you. Please forgive me for those actions. And thank you for what this has taught me Thank you for being you. Now imagine how that softens someone
Oh, yeah.
where they feel seen as pure.
I don't even know if I'd have the strength to do that. Like that.
So you do it internally a lot. You do it internally, and you may never even do it externally to this person.
Yeah, yeah.
I did this constantly. I just would keep, every time I'd get angry, I would repeat. And then one day, I actually went to a Tony Robbins event, and he took the audience through this. And I was like, oh my gosh, there it is again. And through the meditation there with Tony Robbins, I saw Sean. I saw this very broken man, this very sad man, this very heavy man. Like he couldn't look at me in this meditation. And I just remember thinking like he needs to feel it. And I went home and he was like laying on the couch, and I went up to him and I just started saying it. And he's like, okay, cool. Like, what are you doing? You know? And I just kept repeating the 4 words over and over. I was like, he just has to feel this. He has to feel me. Like, it's going to change. I know it. It's got to work. And then finally I was like, sit up. And I just grabbed him and I hugged him and I just kept repeating it over and over. And I just pressed my heart so deeply to him. And all of a sudden his whole body just broke. And he just started sobbing like I've never seen him sob. And he pulls away and he says, you have no idea how much I needed to hear that.
Oh my gosh, because he probably carried such
He
a
carried
burden.
so
And it's not like he
much.
intentionally did anything.
No, he carried such a burden, and all he wanted to do was keep me safe.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I have
that
such
would
a
be so
love
hard.
for that man.
Yeah.
We did part ways as a couple. We're beautiful co-parents. I support him. He supports me. Usually the last person I call before I go on stage. Just we've got a bond that you really can't break.
Yeah.
And we also realized we did a lot out of obligation in terms of getting married.
Sure.
So.
My gosh, you're just so mature, like emotionally and mentally. The fact that you can reach these points after everything you've been through. And speaking of Tony Robbins, you have some huge things coming up. Are you allowed to say anything about that?
Yes, I'm so excited. So speaking on Tony Robbins stage has always been a pinnacle for me. Like that is the goal. It's where we're headed. I like no ifs, ands, or buts. We will get there one day. And this last year, I had a massive shift in my business. I opened up a coaching business for others that want to share their story, those that want to speak on stage,
cool.
and them claiming their voice. It is the coolest thing. And now we kind of say it's like for any stage. There's stages of life and there's physical stages, and it's for all of it. And well, I had gone to multiple of Tony events, and at the business one, back in 2021, it was a virtual, and I got to ask the last question of the event. And my question was, how do you keep going or know what to do when your vision feels so big and you feel so small? Because it's just in my kitchen, in my living room, doing my little videos, you know, like trying so hard to like listen to the inner voice and do all the right moves. And he just says, you're judging yourself too soon. I was like, okay. He's like, I got 40 years on you. Of course I'm a lot further ahead. You know, he's like, you're just starting. You're judging yourself, my 40 compared to your 1. And so, and then also there was a woman on the panel. Her name is Payal, and she started ClassPass. Have you ever heard of it? It's just an app for like finding fitness classes in your area. Well, it just sold for like $1 billion.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, she started in her living room. Like,
wow, that's amazing.
Crazy story. And she said it was never about the $1 billion in the beginning. It was about getting my first 3 students to class.
Wow.
And so I thought, okay, my whole point then is going to get my first 3 students to stage. And so I just kept building on that, just kept building. Well, Tony Robbins was paying attention apparently to all this building. And they reached out about a month ago and they said, we want to do a full story on you, a full success story, and what it means to make pivots and to keep going and all the things. And the film crew came out. They did an entire day and they said, what do you want to include? And I said, my clients, because they're along on this journey like that. Absolutely.
I love that about you.
I call them my icons. The whole program is called the Icon Academy.
You belong up on a stage with Tony Robbins. I've seen you on stage before. You're incredible.
Thank you.
And you just you command an audience. It's amazing.
I love it up there.
Well, is there anything else you want to add to someone who's maybe going through a really hard time and how to get to that next point of using that difficult situation to further their own life or to further the lives of the people around them? Is there any other advice you could add?
Well, I think I'll just echo on Tony. You're judging yourself too soon. Like, don't judge yourself too soon. We talked about this a little bit before we started recording of our wounds, right?
Yes.
And there are wounds that are open and bloody when you are just in the thick of it. There are wounds that are scabbed over that you're doing okay, but like as soon as it gets nicked, it could be a full blown, like let go, or it could just start to bleed again, but it's still tender.
Yeah.
And then there's the scars. And I feel like things only turn into scars once we've extracted the lesson and the wisdom out of it. I now see all this wisdom. As my therapist used to say, back up. When you back up far enough, you realize it's a perfectly choreographed dance.
I love it.
It's a dance.
So like give yourself time to grieve
Yes.
and know that things will get better. And then do whatever you can after that to make your life better and the people around you too. You're such an example of that.
Thank you.
Such an example. And like I said it before, I'm going to say it again. She's the exact same with cameras on or off, like just so full of light, so full of love and wanting to help people. And the fact that you want to bring your clients right along with you just says so much about how selfless you are too. I love that about you.
I'm obsessed with my clients. I have so
You're
much
amazing.
fun with them. We just have a blast. Like it's just, and the bonds that get created, because our entire work is around our stories. So we're working through them. We're healing through them. We're finding the lessons through them. Like all of it, the bonds are just, they're unreal. So our first round, we had 3 success stories. 7 people signed up, but your first people don't really fully show up. And then our second round, we had 18, all of them very committed. It was just a really powerful group. And our next one, I want to double it again. So
cool.
Yeah.
You're amazing. Thank you
you
so much for coming here and being willing to share
you're
all of this light and knowledge that you've got.
And if you guys want to come to, I've got our event happening in September. So I'm not sure when this is going to air, but we've got the Icon Live.
Yes.
My whole dream is basically mixing personal development with the Oscars. So imagine a red carpet, imagine getting dolled up,
love it.
People getting recognized for their stories and awards and beautiful speeches, this entire experience all around our own personal growth. So healing experiences and growth and the speakers and the exercises we'll do, you'll literally leave feeling like a star.
Tell us where we can find information on that and where they can find you on social media and otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything's Vertical Blonde.
Okay.
So Vertical Blonde was the name I gave to my core self. I love it. And so I started to ask myself, what would Vertical Blonde do? And that became my iconic identity. So,
I love it.
Yeah, Vertical Blonde means so much to me.
Oh,
everything is Vertical Blonde across the board on Instagram, my website, everything. And you can get tickets. And
they can get tickets right from there.
Everything's right there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. You're incredible.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.